It happens somewhere around 2 a.m. You wake up to silence. Not the normal silence of a sleeping house, something different. You check the monitor. The crib is empty. Or maybe you find them pressed against the door of their room, or halfway down the hallway, or curled up outside your bedroom door like a small, determined guard dog. And your first instinct is to carry them back. Tuck them in. Tell yourself it's just a phase. But developmental sleep researchers have spent the last 15 years studying exactly this behavior, nocturnal repositioning in infants and toddlers. And what they found doesn't just explain why your baby moves at night. It reframes everything you thought you understood about how young children experience the dark. The obvious explanation. Nobody questions. Most parents assume the answer is simple. Babies move at night because they got cold or startled or just woke up and got curious. Maybe they heard a noise. Maybe they're going through a sleep regression. Put them back, add a white noise machine, problem solved. That explanation is not wrong. It's just extremely incomplete, because when researchers at the University of Notre Dame's Mother-Baby Behavioral Sleep Laboratory started tracking where babies and toddlers moved during the night, and more importantly, toward what, the pattern that emerged in the data was not random. It was not about noise, or temperature, or curiosity. It was directional. Almost every time. Toward you. What the data actually shows. Dr. James McKenna, one of the world's leading researchers on infant sleep behavior, has spent over 3 decades studying what happens to babies' bodies and brains during nighttime separation from caregivers. What his lab found changed the conversation entirely. When an infant or toddler moves rooms at night, their cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone, are measurably elevated before they move. Not after waking up, before. Their body is registering a threat signal first. The movement comes second. This is not a child being naughty. This is not a child manipulating you. This is a nervous system doing exactly what 200,000 years of human evolution designed it to do. Here's why that matters. Your baby's brain was not built for modern bedrooms. For the overwhelming majority of human existence, infants did not sleep in separate rooms. They did not sleep in cribs. The concept of a child having their own dedicated sleep space, away from caregivers, is historically so recent, it barely registers on the evolutionary timeline. Modern sleep arrangements are roughly 200 years old. The human brain is 200,000 years old. Inside your baby's developing brain, there is a structure called the amygdala. It processes threat. It fires alarm signals. And in infants and toddlers, that structure operates on one foundational rule that no amount of soft lighting or breathable crib mattresses can override. Proximity to caregiver equals safety. Distance from caregiver equals threat. This is not a preference. This is not a habit. It is hardwired biological architecture. And when your baby wakes up in the dark, alone, in a room separated from you by walls and distance, their amygdala does not think, I am in my safe crib in my safe house. It thinks what it was built to think for 200,000 years. Where is my person? I need to find them. That movement down the hallway, that is your child's survival system working perfectly. But here's where it gets specific. Because babies don't all move at night for the same reason. And researchers have identified something that almost no parenting book talks about. The timing of when a baby moves tells you something different than the movement itself. A team at the University of Auckland studied sleep patterns in children aged 8 months to 3 years over a 12-week period. They found 3 distinct movement windows that correlated with 3 completely different underlying states. Movement in the first 2 hours of sleep, roughly 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., was most strongly associated with incomplete sleep pressure. The child wasn't actually tired enough when they were put down. The separation triggered arousal before deep sleep could anchor them. Movement between midnight and 2 a.m. correlated most strongly with REM cycle transitions. This is the window where the brain briefly surfaces toward lighter sleep stages. And for children under 3, that surfacing moment is when the absence of a caregiver becomes acutely registerable. They weren't fully awake. They were in the thin, fragile membrane between sleep states. And In that membrane, the amygdala fires first. Movement after 3 a.m. showed the strongest correlation with something the researchers called anticipatory attachment behavior. The child wasn't responding to a threat. They were moving toward connection, preemptively, before full waking, as if their body knew, on some biological clock level, that morning and reunion were close. 3 different timings, 3 different messages, and all 3 invisible to a parent who only sees baby left their room again. The experiment that made researchers rethink everything now. I need to tell you about a study that was controversial enough when it was published that it sparked a full re-examination of standard pediatric sleep guidelines. In 2012, researchers in the UK fitted infants aged 6 to 18 months with electroencephalogram sensors, devices that measure brainwave activity, during both co-located sleep, where caregiver and baby were in the same room, and separated sleep, different rooms. What they found was this. During separated sleep, infants spent significantly more time in light, fragmented sleep stages. Their sleep architecture, the rhythm of deep and light cycles that the brain needs to consolidate memory, process emotion, and physically restore itself, was measurably disrupted compared to co-located nights. But here's the part nobody talks about. The infants who showed the most fragmented sleep during separation also showed the least movement toward the caregiver. They didn't go find their parent. They lay still, and their cortisol remained elevated for longer. The babies who moved, their cortisol dropped faster after contact. Their sleep architecture in the second half of the night was healthier. Their stress response resolved. The babies who couldn't move, too young in a crib with rails separated by a closed door, stayed in a low-grade stress state for longer without resolution. Your baby moving toward you at night is not the problem. It is the solution. The movement is healthy attachment behavior doing its job. The question researchers are now asking is not, how do we stop the movement, but what does it mean when the movement stops? What your baby is actually communicating. Dr. Sarah Blunden, director of the Appleton Institute's Pediatric Sleep Research Unit, puts it this way. When a toddler or infant moves rooms at night, they are not communicating bad behavior. They are not communicating poor sleep training. They are communicating one of 3 things with remarkable biological precision. I am in a stress state, and I need regulation. I am between sleep cycles, and I need an anchor. I am wired for connection, and I am doing what my nervous system knows how to do. Every one of those communications is legitimate. Every one of them is asking for something real, and here is the part that should stop you cold. Researchers at the Washington University School of Medicine found that children whose nighttime attachment bids, including nocturnal movement toward caregivers, were consistently responded to with warmth rather than returned to bed without acknowledgement, showed measurably better emotional self-regulation by age 4, better frustration tolerance, better recovery from distress, stronger prefrontal cortex development in the regions responsible for emotional control. How you respond to the 2 a.m. hallway moment is not just about sleep. It is about the architecture of who your child is becoming. The part no one talks about in parenting books. There is a difference, a significant, neurologically meaningful difference, between a child who moves toward you at night and a child who stops. Some parents take pride in it. She finally stopped coming to our room. He sleeps through the night now, doesn't move at all. And in most cases, yes, that is healthy developmental progress. Older children build the internal regulatory capacity to anchor themselves through sleep cycles without physical proximity. But researchers flag a specific pattern that pediatric sleep specialists are trained to watch for. A young child under 18 months who abruptly stops all nighttime movement after a period of consistent moving, who goes quiet, who stops seeking. That is not always progress. Sometimes it is. Sometimes sleep training has simply worked, and the child has internalized felt security. But sometimes, according to research published in the journal Attachment and Human Development, abrupt cessation of nighttime proximity seeking in very young infants can signal a shift toward what attachment researchers call disorganized attachment, a state where the child has learned that seeking comfort doesn't work and has stopped trying. They're not sleeping better. They've stopped asking. If you have a baby under 18 months who abruptly went from frequent nighttime seeking to total stillness without a gradual transition, it is worth talking to your pediatrician. Not because something is definitely wrong, but because the brain's attachment system in the first 2 years of life is building the template it will use for every close relationship your child will ever have. The hallway matters more than the hallway looks like it does. What you should actually do at 2 a.m. So where does this leave you, standing in the dark hallway, holding a warm, sleepy, insistent small person who has once again left their room? The research doesn't tell you to bring them into your bed every night. It doesn't tell you sleep training is wrong. What it tells you is this: the goal is not to eliminate the movement. The goal is to help your child build enough felt security that they eventually can anchor themselves through sleep without needing to physically find you. That is a developmental achievement. It takes time. It is not linear. And it cannot be rushed past the timeline the nervous system needs. Responding warmly does not create dependency. Responding warmly builds the security from which independence eventually grows. Every time you meet your baby in that hallway, calmly, without frustration, without the message that their need was wrong, you are making a deposit into a neurological account that will pay out in emotional resilience for the next 20 years. The last thing. The next time you find your baby outside their room at 2 a.m., pressed against the wall, or sitting at the top of the stairs, or just standing in the dark looking for you, remember what is actually happening inside that small body. A nervous system built over 200,000 years of human evolution is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is reaching for safety. It is reaching for regulation. It is reaching for you, specifically because you are the person it has identified as the center of its world. That is not a sleep problem. That is love expressed in the only language a developing brain knows how to use at 2 in the morning, and the only right response is to be there when it finds you. If this changed how you see your baby's nighttime behavior, subscribe and drop a comment below. I want to know, has your baby ever moved rooms at night, and what did you do when you found them? And if you want to understand why babies fight sleep so hard even when they're exhausted, why they cry harder the more tired they get, that's the next video. And the science behind it is something every parent needs to hear.